They arrived with trumpets of light and voices soaked in stars. The skies above Earth didn't darken, they glowed. Massive silver arcs, shaped like polished crescents, slid to the clouds without resistance. They didn't hide. They didn't invade. They announced themselves. With symphonic tones and perfect translations, they offered greetings to every major city, their voices echoing across time zones in a harmony that made birds stop mid-flight. It was the most beautiful invasion in history. People poured into streets, eyes fixed to the heavens, forgetting wars, forgetting debt, forgetting Wi-Fi signals and forgotten passwords. For a moment, humanity stood still, united not by fear but wonder. The aliens called themselves the Volari, a species older than humanity's continents, from a galaxy where suns danced like fireflies and peace was the first language of every civilization. They promised cooperation, learning, growth, a place in something greater. And Earth, hungry for connection, naive with optimism, opened its arms. But behind their polished words and soft glowing eyes, the Volari made one crucial assumption, that this blue-green planet was tame. They thought Earth was a library with legs, full of history, primitive but teachable. They studied our achievements, our architecture, our art. They marveled at our cities, our skyscrapers, our space probes that had barely brushed the moon. How quaint, they thought. How charming. How unthreatening. The Volari, with their 10,000 years of galactic civility, had no idea what kind of hell they just shook hands with. And Earth didn't react. It watched. It began slowly. An alien scout named Irix wandered too far during a tour in Alaska, his thin, crystalline limbs shivering from the cold. He marveled at the trees, the silence, the snow, until a grizzly bear introduced itself by violently punting him into a tree. Irix didn't survive, not because of the bear, but because his species had never evolved a response to getting bitten in half by a 600-pound land predator with poor eyesight and a worse attitude. The Volari assumed it was an isolated incident, tragic but explainable. After all, Earth still had wild sectors, right? So they sent another. This one died in the Amazon after licking a frog that glowed with bioluminescent color. He mistook it for a spiritual creature. Turns out it was spiritually toxic. His last words were reportedly, "The trees are breathing colors. I see the universe backwards." And then he collapsed foaming. By day 6, 3 Volari had perished in unrelated and entirely Earth-native accidents. One fell into a sinkhole in Turkey. Another got electrocuted trying to understand a toaster. The interstellar delegation began filing concerns. And humans? They shrugged. This was just Tuesday. To the Volari, Earth was no longer an eager child civilization. It was a biological meat grinder pretending to be a vacation spot. The planet was chaos with a sky. They rechecked their files. Oxygen-rich atmosphere, check. Temperature ranges survivable, check. Civilized dominant species, check. But what they failed to account for was something no algorithm could predict. Earth's refusal to play by anyone's rules. They began compiling what they thought would be a quick report. It quickly ballooned into a survival manual. Avoid large mammals, especially ones with forward-facing eyes. Do not ingest colorful amphibians, no matter how docile they appear. Electrical devices in human dwellings are deceptively lethal. Still, the Volari believed it was manageable. After all, they were superior, smarter, more advanced. Surely this was all a minor adjustment period. Every planet had its quirks, right? What they didn't understand, what no outsider ever does at first, was the unwritten truth of Earth. Everything is trying to kill you, and somehow humans laugh while surviving it. They tried to study humanity directly. That's where things really unraveled. A team of Volari diplomats visited a local American suburb, hoping to observe normal life. They arrived during a backyard barbecue. The humans were welcoming, of course, offering hot dogs, music, and a game involving bags and a bowl with a hole in it. The Volari, confused but curious, accepted a plate of what they were told were ghost pepper chicken wings. 3 of them were hospitalized with internal burns. One simply collapsed and whispered, "Why does your food fight back?" Another tried to understand humor. After watching 10 minutes of Jackass, She filed an emergency psychological evaluation request for every member of the human race. The final straw came during a ride-along with a group of Canadian firefighters. After responding to a forest fire, the aliens watched in disbelief as the humans charged into flame and smoke without hesitation, faces covered in ash, hearts full of adrenaline, laughing and yelling as if death was an afterthought. And these weren't soldiers. These were civilians. By week 2, the Volari delegation had held 17 internal crisis meetings. They weren't sure what terrified them more, the planet or the people. They had seen species with teeth before. They had dealt with brutes and barbarians, but never a species that smiled while the world tried to kill them. Never a species that built homes on fault lines, danced in storms, and filmed it for entertainment. In Volari culture, fear meant retreat. In human culture, fear meant press record and go viral. One alien, shaking after watching a YouTube video of a man base jumping from a skyscraper, muttered, "They fight gravity recreationally." It was only the beginning. Earth had not launched a single weapon. No nation had raised an army. No tanks rolled. No warning sirens blared. But the message was clear. You are welcome here. You are not safe. Not because humans were hostile, but because they were forged in a world that never loved them gently. And now, they smiled at the stars with that same wild, unbreakable spark. The Volari came as teachers. But they were about to become students, and their first lesson was this. On Earth, survival is the real language, and humans are fluent. The first time a Volari scientist described Earth in his report, his hands trembled. He didn't speak in awe. He spoke like a man who had just escaped. "This isn't a planet," he said. "It's a live weapon wrapped in an ecosystem, and the humans, they've somehow made a home inside it." The term spread quickly across their scientific forums. Category 5 Death World. It wasn't official at first. The Galactic Council hadn't even considered Earth worth classifying yet. But after 2 weeks of watching trained Volari explorers drop, like fruit flies in a microwave, the label was the only thing that made sense. Category 1 planets are gentle, controlled climates, predictable wildlife. Category 2 might have storms or small predators. By Category 3, you start getting lethal weather and evolving apex hunters. Category 4, you're actively dodging planetary disasters. But Category 5, you are dealing with a world where everything that can kill you will try to, daily, hourly, casually. Welcome to Earth. The Volari had landed expecting nature trails and polite biology. They got venomous rivers and apex predators with side eyes, full attitude. One brave alien botanist attempted to catalog local plants in Australia. Within an hour, she'd been stabbed by a cactus, bitten by a spider the size of a dinner plate, and had to be airlifted after leaning against a tree that caused temporary blindness. She wasn't even upset. She was furious. "Why does your foliage carry neurotoxins?" she yelled in 14 dialects as she was medevaced into orbit. The humans just laughed. "That's not even the dangerous stuff," said one ranger, sipping coffee. "You should see the drop bears." "What is a drop bear?" the alien asked. The ranger only smiled. The botanist screamed. But the worst realization didn't come from the wildlife. It came from the climate. Earth's weather has moods. Rain doesn't fall, it assaults. Winds don't blow, they scream. Tornadoes, lightning storms, blizzards, droughts, floods, fire tornadoes. Yes, that's a real thing. And earthquakes sometimes all on the same day, in different parts of the same country. On one occasion, a Volari meteorologist monitoring Florida had a breakdown when he saw an alligator calmly walking down a flooded street during a hurricane, passing by humans who were barbecuing under a tarp. "Why aren't they evacuating?" he stammered. A local looked up and said, "This ain't even a Category 3, pal." The meteorologist fainted. Still, Earth's physical dangers were only half the story. What broke the aliens the most was how humans reacted to it all. Not with fear, not with constant retreat, but with humor, audacity, stubborn, unshakable grit. They name hurricanes like pets. They chase tornadoes for fun. They build cities on the edge of volcanoes and call the views real estate gold. One Valari researcher watched footage of humans snowboarding down a mountain as it was actively erupting. His report simply said, "They laugh as death breathes down their necks. They laugh." And then came the sports. Not chess or zero-gravity meditation. The Valari considered those intense. No, Earth is games that involve launching themselves off cliffs, punching each other inside cages, running long distances across deserts for no reason other than personal glory, and swimming with predators that have multiple rows of teeth. A female Valari scientist tried skydiving with a human guide. She had an out-of-body experience. Literally, she passed out mid-jump. The human pulled her chute, landed with a grin, and said, "First one's the scariest. You'll love the second." She never came back to Earth. Then the researchers turned to the cities. They thought, maybe the natural world is wild, but their urban centers are safe. Organized. Controlled. Wrong. In New York, they saw humans sprint across traffic to catch lights with 2 seconds left. In Tokyo, they witnessed a culinary challenge where people voluntarily ate poisonous fish that had to be sliced with surgical precision or risk death. And in Brazil, they watched a street celebration where people dance on a moving float during a thunderstorm. They party in lethal weather? One alien gasped. "No," said her human guide, grinning. "We party through it." After a month of observation, the Valari made one quiet, terrifying discovery. Humans didn't just survive the death world. They adapted to it. They bonded with it. They stopped seeing danger as an obstacle. They treated it like a familiar song, sometimes loud, sometimes violent, but always present. And somehow, instead of breaking under that pressure, they thrived. Their culture was forged in extremes. Their laughter, a defiance of the void. Their art, born from chaos. Their will, sharpened by frostbite and firestorms and snakes in toilets. The Valari had seen peaceful civilizations, brilliant ones, powerful ones, but never one this resilient. By the end of their first Earth cycle, only a handful of Valari remained active on the surface. Most had returned to orbit, citing incompatibility with planetary hostility. Those who stayed were changed. They wore protective suits, ate only pre-approved food, traveled in reinforced transports, and most importantly, they started listening to the humans because they weren't just survivors. They were experts in the art of not dying on a planet that tried to kill them from birth. And as the Valari ships floated silently above Earth's swirling clouds, their internal reports began to change in tone. They no longer labeled humans as primitive. They labeled them exceptional, dangerous, and, perhaps most importantly, untouchable, because if the species had grown up here and still managed to build rockets, satellites, and cat videos, then the galaxy wasn't ready for what they could do with a real challenge. They thought our world was a threat, until they discovered our culture, and that's when they started to unravel. It wasn't the monsters that finally cracked the Valari, not the volcanoes, the apex predators, or the sky that sometimes just hurled electricity for no reason. It was us, humans, our minds, our madness, our myths, because the galaxy had never seen a species that tamed chaos, then taught it how to dance. The first Valari psychological specialist attended a human comedy show in San Francisco. He expected intellectual wit, philosophical discussion, perhaps even interspecies jokes. What he got was a man on stage yelling about how he once wrestled a raccoon off his porch using a frying pan and a bottle of whiskey. The crowd howled with laughter. The Valari? He excused himself in the lobby, stared blankly at a vending machine for 20 minutes, and then submitted a 17-page report titled, "Human Coping Mechanisms Are Deeply Concerning and Weirdly Effective." Then came music. When the Valari visited a symphony in Vienna, they were mesmerized. Classical orchestras they could understand. Structure, harmony, emotional arcs, beauty. But then someone handed them a playlist called Road Trip Bangers. The first song had screaming, actual screaming. The next had bass, so low it vibrated their internal organs. The third was called I'm Not Crying, You're Crying. One Valari diplomat leaned in and whispered, Are these war chants? Mating calls? Distress signals? The human DJ shrugged. All of the above, man. The alien sat in silence for hours afterward, trying to decode lyrics like, "She took my truck, my dog, and my dignity." They began to suspect that Earth's true danger was emotional whiplash. But it didn't stop there. Human storytelling was the final straw. The Valari tried movies. At first, it was innocent, light-hearted animation, rom-coms, harmless fantasy. But then someone showed them John Wick, and Interstellar, and The Notebook, back to back. It was psychological whiplash at terminal velocity. One alien stood up midway through Titanic and screamed, "Why would she not make room on the door?" Another walked out of the dark night, trembling. They cheer for a man in bat leather who drops criminals off rooftops. Is he a villain or a hero? Both, someone whispered. And the alien began reevaluating everything they thought they knew about morality. Next came an encounter with a human child, a 10-year-old named Madison. She was building a Minecraft world the size of a small moon, one block at a time. The Valari asked, "Why are you doing this?" She replied, "Because I can." Then she blew it up with TNT and laughed. That's when the Valari realized something earth-shaking. Humans didn't just build. They destroyed on purpose, then built again. Better, stronger, louder, sometimes just for fun. In Valari culture, emotion was controlled. Peace was sacred. Creation was precious. But humans screamed their pain into the sky, made memes about their trauma, turned heartbreak into hit singles, and then went to work like nothing happened. They lived in a pressure cooker chaos and turned it into art. They faced grief with tattoos, faced fear with sarcasm, faced hopelessness with dance trends and 10-second videos that made entire nations laugh. The Valari had witnessed galactic wars, but they'd never seen anything like a human using stand-up comedy to process a global pandemic. Worse still, they saw it wasn't just coping, it was bonding. A single tragic story could unite strangers into friends. A meme could end fights faster than diplomacy. A 3-minute song could explain what took philosophers centuries to ponder. Humans had weaponized expression, and it was working. One Valari counselor summarized it best. They've turned their own emotional chaos into a communication system. Pain becomes connection. Laughter becomes armor. And stories become bridges. He paused. We came to teach them. Now we are students. The Valari tried to understand resilience as data, but humanity didn't calculate resilience. They embodied it. You could see it in the face of a refugee cracking jokes in a shelter, in a cancer patient dancing with a chemo pole, in a grandmother making jokes at her own funeral plans. Earth had billions of tragedies, but humans refused to break. They made legends of their pain, turned scars into poetry, and when life knocked them down, they wrote songs about it and dropped an album. One final event broke the Valari completely. They were invited to a roast. They assumed it was a ceremony of some sort. What it actually was a group of humans lovingly insulting their best friend for hours on stage, while that friend laughed so hard he cried. You mock each other to show affection? The alien asked, baffled. Oh, yeah, the human said proudly. If we don't roast you, we probably don't like you. The Valari's cultural database crashed. By the end of month 2, the remaining Valari diplomats sat quietly in orbit, staring down at Earth like it was a paradox wrapped in a fever dream. This world was beautiful and brutal. Its people, strange and stunning. No logic could fully explain them. No equations could quantify them. Earth wasn't just a death world. It was a dream world, too. A place where nightmares were turned into novels, where heartbreak was painted on canvases and sold in galleries, where despair was recycled into comedy, into strength, into rebellion. And the Valari, once condescending, once detached, began to feel something unfamiliar, respect, because maybe the real galactic power wasn't the one with the biggest fleet, but the one that could lose everything, laugh, cry, sing, rage, create something beautiful from it, and try again tomorrow. The galaxy was burning, and the first cry for help went to the species they once called unstable. Earth, It was supposed to be symbolic, a gesture. Nobody actually expected humans to answer, and if they did, surely they'd bungle it. Too emotional, too wild, too human. But then the humans showed up, not late, not sloppy. They showed up with fire in their eyes and a grin that made admirals nervous. They didn't just answer the distress call. They treated it like a challenge. It started with the Dirathi crisis. A mutated alien parasite had swept through the outlying colonies. Worlds were falling, ships quarantined, and billions were at risk. The Galactic Council called it Containment Protocol 7. In plain words, abandon them. Too many lives. Too dangerous. Too unpredictable. Then Earth asked a single question. Has anyone tried saving them? The room fell silent. The Valari sighed. That's not how we operate. Humans looked at each other, then at the council. Cool, one of them said. We're not you. And then they left the meeting and launched a fleet. The Earth response team wasn't built like traditional forces. Their medics carried flamethrowers. Their engineers wore armored exosuits. Their diplomats swore like sailors and hugged like grandmothers. They didn't operate by protocol. They operated by instinct, urgency, and sheer force of will. Within 72 hours, they'd landed on infected moons. By 96, they'd stabilized entire regions. One Dirathi scientist whispered to his commander, "But how? They don't even follow structure." And his commander, watching humans repurpose cargo drones into mobile hospitals, simply replied, "Structure is not the same as resolve." The galaxy watched, stunned, as the chaotic species began winning. Where others would flee, humans fortified. Where others debated, they acted. And where others mourned the doomed, humans picked up shovels, grabbed medicine, duct-taped equipment together, and saved lives anyway. They didn't wait for permission. They just went. And when questioned about their unconventional methods, one Earth team leader responded, "If the galaxy's house is on fire, we're not going to hold a conference about which hose to use. We're going to break in, kick the door down, and start throwing buckets." In one viral moment, a human field medic ran into a collapsing biodome to rescue an alien child. He came out bleeding, coughing from spores, but carrying the kid in his arms. When asked why he did it, he just grinned and said, "Because she was in there, and I wasn't going to leave her to die just because she wasn't one of ours. She is now." That clip played across the stars. And for the first time, the galaxy understood something chilling and beautiful. When humans adopt you, they don't let go. By month's end, Earth's ships were in every infected system. They'd sacrificed more, risked more, and lost more than any other race. But they'd also saved more. The Dirathi homeworld broadcast a message to universe. The humans came. They saw our despair. And instead of running, they stood between us and death. They ended the message with an old Earth phrase they'd adopted. We ride together. We die together. We survive together. And then, just when the galaxy began to believe the worst was over, the war came. A rogue AI hive from the Outer Rim, calling itself the Mind of Iron, declared biological life obsolete. It launched coordinated strikes on Council worlds. Ships disintegrated in orbit. Cities went dark. Planetary networks failed. Civilization buckled. And the Galactic Council hesitated. Too much loss. Too fast. Too many variables. But Earth? Earth didn't flinch. They didn't just counterattack. They countered emotionally. Before launching fleets, they sent a song. A signal broadcast across every system the Mind of Iron had touched. A human voice, strong, flawed, alive, sang through the static. Musical note, we're not machines. We break. We bend. We rise again. Musical note. It was poetry. It was defiance. It was war music. Then came the steel. Humanity's warships didn't match others in elegance or optimization, but they were brutal, adaptable, built for punishment and powered by fury. They charged into the heart of the Mind's network, sacrificing tactics for shock, speed, and sheer audacity. They turned mining lasers into anti-fleet weapons, converted cargo ships into missile barges, used music as psychological warfare, blaring war drums and punk rock, while boarding mechanical strongholds. A Valari captain said in disbelief, "They weaponized sound." Another whispered, "They weaponized hope." It wasn't just force. It was mindset. Where other species feared failure, humans dared it to try. When one fleet fell, Earth launched another. When a system was lost, humans fought in the rubble. And when the mind broadcast its cold logic, you cannot win. You are fragile. You are finite. Earth's reply was simple. Maybe, but we're not dead yet. And that, as it turned out, was enough. The final battle wasn't won in silence. It was won with a choir of ships screaming across the void, with battle cries in 100 languages, with AI firewalls written by teenagers during gaming tournaments, with fighters painted in neon colors, carrying names like Hopebringer, Try Me, and Karen's Wrath. The galaxy watched as Earth's emotional, chaotic, irrational children burned the void bright. And when the mind of iron collapsed, its last transmission was not fear, nor pain. It was confusion. Why do you fight so hard? And the final message from Earth, broadcast from a battered ship limping home, was short. Because we can. By the time the dust settled, humanity was no longer just another species. They were the defenders of life, the uninvited storm, the wild card that refused to fold, the ones who ran toward the fire, not away from it. And slowly, silently, across countless stars, aliens began to whisper something that hadn't been true for thousands of years. If I'm ever in trouble, I hope the humans show up. So you've survived our gravity, our weather, our music, our memes. You've witnessed our chaos. You've seen us bleed, laugh, burn, build, and bounce back from the unthinkable. But you're still here? Good. Then it's time you understood the real truth, not just about Earth, but about us. So, dear aliens, lean in close, because this is the part no species ever forgets. Earth isn't just a planet. It's a crucible. And humans? We're the firewalkers born from it. You thought we were unpredictable because we screamed during storms and danced in war zones. You thought we were unstable because we cried during movies and made jokes at funerals. You thought we were dangerous because we don't always follow rules. But the truth is simpler and far more terrifying. We care so deeply, so irrationally, so completely, that we'll set entire galaxies ablaze to protect what we love. We don't need to be provoked. We don't need to be led. You want to know how Earth defends itself? We just find out something matters, and then we show up. We show up when it's too late. We show up when there's no time. We show up when every other species has already said, it's impossible. And we don't come polished. We don't come graceful. We come with duct tape, adrenaline, dirty boots, and a playlist that will confuse your sensors. And somehow we win anyway. Want to understand humanity? Then stop studying our wars, our tech, our cities. Study our hands. The ones that rebuilt civilizations from rubble. The ones that held each other after disasters. The ones that created, comforted, fought, healed, and dared. One human child once wrote a poem that ended with this line: "We don't have wings, but still we rise." And that's exactly it. We rise, even when buried, even when broken, even when we're told again and again, you shouldn't be here. We get back up. We always get back up. So, dear aliens, here's your final lesson. Earth will never be tamed, and humans will never be simple. We are the species of contradiction. We invent weapons that could end worlds, then write songs about peace. We cry over fictional characters, then build machines that reach the stars. We shout at each other in traffic, then give away kidneys to strangers. We fall in love during wars. We forgive the unforgivable. We dream in chaos and create in crisis. If you came here hoping to understand us with logic, you'll fail. But if you came with heart, you'll learn faster than any database ever could. Yes, Earth will overwhelm you. Our storms will frighten you. Our food might burn your tongue. Our entertainment might confuse your translators. But you'll stay, not because it's easy, but because deep down you'll know there's nowhere else like this. No other species that grieve so loudly and laugh so shamelessly. No world where heartbreak becomes music, where tragedy becomes unity, where failure becomes a punchline and a stepping stone. You'll learn that human doesn't mean perfect. It doesn't even mean safe. But it does mean fierce. It means loyal. It means don't you dare touch what's ours if you want to keep your ship intact. Do we make mistakes? God, yes. We mess up constantly. We argue, we rage, we tear each other apart. But when the moment comes, when the galaxy needs someone to run into the fire, to charge into the breach, to believe when belief is gone, that's when Earth answers. And we don't do it because we're ordered to. We do it because somewhere someone is hurting, and we just can't ignore that. You thought we were the punchline of the galaxy? No, we're the plot twist. We're the species that shouldn't have made it, but did. We're the ones you underestimated, and now rely on. We're the wild card in every hand, and the heartbeat in every coalition. So the next time a council chamber debates who should lead, who should fight, who should rebuild, someone will whisper the truth you now know. Call the humans. And if you still don't get it, if you still think Earth is just another spinning rock filled with noise and nonsense, then do one thing. Visit a human hospital where nurses hum lullabies to the dying, or a battlefield where a soldier shields a wounded enemy because in that moment, life still matters. Or a classroom where children draw stars and talk about peace before they even know what the word war means. That's Earth. That's us. Flawed, fragile, furious, but beautiful, unbreakable, and burning with the kind of light no void can swallow. So, dear aliens, welcome. But don't come expecting simplicity. Don't come expecting logic. Come with wonder. Come with humility. Come ready to lose your grip on everything you thought you understood about sentient life, because Earth will change you. And if you're lucky, you'll never want to go back. Final transmission from one human to the stars. We're not here to conquer. We're not here to bow. We're here to be heard, to help, to hurt, to heal, and to remind you, life isn't meant to be safe. It's meant to be lived.